Hi everybody. Today I want to talk with you a little bit about how you can build effective introductions in your documents. This includes documents like the project summary that we are working on currently in class, but it also includes future documents in engineering. So why do introductions matter? Why can't you just present the data that you have compiled and expect your stakeholder or reader to understand it? Wouldn't you expect that they would just want the data so that they don't have to sift through a bunch of wordiness? Well, I want to remind you that your reader doesn't actually have your assignment instructions. So your reader needs some instructions, indication as to what this information is about, what is contained here, why they're receiving it, and how it's going to help them or what it's going to provide for them. That information is actually going to help them to save time, because knowing how to receive this information is going to be more efficient than being confused about it and having to ask questions or trying to sift through things to understand what you're supposed to do with them. Okay, and in all likelihood, your stakeholder is a busy person. And so the introduction is a chance for you to convince your reader that this is going to be an efficient use of time, an effective use of time, and that he or she should stick around and continue reading. So I want to talk a little bit about the differences between introductions and abstracts, because I've had some questions on that. I have some questions to consider in terms of what the reader's perspective is when they encounter a document. I have some instructions about what your introductions need to do, and then some advice on how to make decisions based on your unique writing situation. So first of all, the difference between introductions and abstracts. An abstract is like a roadmap, while the introduction begins the journey. So you're reading the abstract at a different time, perhaps, than you're reading the rest of the paper, and there should be some redundancy there, right? The abstract should be a reflection of what's in the rest of the paper, but it doesn't replace anything that's in the paper. It's just a helpful key or guide to what the reader would find in the paper if they were to sit down and read the document or look into the document at more depth. Okay, they could be read at different times. They really are separate. The introduction, on the other hand, is a guide, sort of the beginning of when you're already on the journey of reading this document. It's needed to interpret everything that's in the rest of the document, and it's more extensive than the abstract. Okay, so when your reader opens up a document that you send them, it's your stakeholder, for example, opening up an attachment to an email, some initial questions are going to be going through their heads. First of all, what is this? Right? Because they haven't seen the assignment instructions. They don't know automatically what you're sending them. So what's the point of this? Why me? Why am I receiving this information? Or how does this information relate to me? And then how? How am I going to find the information that I need in this document? So there are a few functions of introductions that I want to discuss that answer some of these questions for the reader. First of all, introductions provide background and context. It's important to distinguish context of the document from context of the topic. Some of you included some background on your topic, like, for example, the history of rocketry, let's say, okay? But actually, the background that we're talking about here is related to how this document came about. You know, why is the team writing this document? What's the need for this document? So that goes on to my next point, reveal the need or the problem that the document satisfies. Remember back to some of those different types of purposes. It's likely that there is going to be a need for information or a need for exploration of a topic here. information is definitely the most likely one here, especially at the beginning of the project. Okay, show how the report will fill the gap by stating the specific purpose. Okay, this is referring to a purpose statement of some kind. We've talked about it in terms of this document will blank, but you don't even have to say this document will or this report will. You can just go ahead and get straight to that strong verb that describes what your report will do. For example, this report provides information about X, Y, and Z. And then you also want to give an overview of the organization of the document as a guide to the document. Okay, so here is an example of a structure that you could use for that purpose statement once again. This document provides information that the stakeholder, for example, should do what with in order to achieve what. Or you could also qualify that a little bit, including or excluding what. Okay, this is just, again, a very general formula. So different situations that require different responses. So different situations do require different responses in terms of what you should put in your introduction. There really isn't any one-size-fits-all formula other than the information that I've presented here so far in terms of how you can decide what to put into your introduction. For people who already know a lot about your project, aka high context readers, your purpose, you may want to get straight to the purpose because they're not going to need a whole lot of background. Okay. The purpose and gap in an email, if it's that kind of document, for example, a short memo or email, it might be okay just to put the purpose and the gap or the need for the document right in the title, in the subject line. That's not going to be okay, by the way, in the rest of your reports that you're turning in this class as assignments. Keep it short, even though we're looking for you to answer this information for the reader. The other side of that is that it's important to do it in as concise a way as possible, because just as having the information is going to be a time saver for the reader in terms of accessing that information and understanding what to do with it, it's also going to be very valuable to be able to get that information in as few words as possible, because that is going to save time as well. Okay, so function over form. This refers to the fact that each situation is different and your project needs are going to be different depending on what your project is, what point of your project you're at, and who your stakeholders are and what their expectations are. So make your introduction work for them, make it work for you. At the same time, you do need to create a balance and include some of those elements that any reader is going to expect to see in an introduction, otherwise they're going to be confused. And we're going to explore how you can make decisions about contextualizing information later on in your document in the next video. All right, thanks and happy writing.